So the question is actually how are you going to solve these? One second. Yeah, how are you going to actually solve all these conditions, right, uh, for the American puts? Okay, how do you solve the problem for the American puts? You remember that when we are talking about Black-Scholes equation, the best thing that we could do was reduce the Black-Scholes equation to a diffusion equation, because the solution of the diffusion equation is much more easier. So if you just do that, if you just recall what we did when we were changing the Black-Scholes to diffusion equation, was we wrote the option that was there in terms of a new variable u, and we changed the s and the t's to new x and tau's. The s was related to x through an exponential. The tau was related to a t through this kind of a formula, and then we had these constants. When we plug that in, we were basically getting that the Black-Scholes equation was turning to this. For our put, what we had was that the payoff, anyway, this was one condition that you have, that the payoff at expiry is max of e minus s comma 0. Okay, or just this is the general shape of the payoff function. Okay, now when t is equal to tau, if you just see this, when t is equal to tau, t is equal to big T, tau is equal to 0. You see that from this condition. So what we have is, in case we want to transform this condition into the u's, we just make a substitution. Tau is equal to 0 here, pst becomes this stuff. Tau you put equal to 0, all you have is an e raised to alpha x. Here you have max of e minus e raised to x, because that is what s is. So you get a initial condition, because at tau is equal to 0, you're getting a condition that this is e raised to minus alpha x, max of e minus x, which we are going to be calling the gx. Okay. And the thing is, at any other possible values, okay, so we are having this initial condition that u of x comma 0 is e raised to minus alpha x, max of e minus ex comma 0, we call this equal to gx. Okay, but we could also write a g of x tau, which is e raised to minus alpha x minus beta t, max of e minus ex comma 0. Okay, that thing would be the representation of p s of tau at any other possible s p s of t at any other possible value of t. So in case you're having that the American option, the American put is getting expressed, in that particular case, what you will have is that the value of the put, okay, if it gets expressed, will be equal to, in the new variable, value of this particular function ux of t. Okay, in case the ux of tau, in case the put is getting expressed, would be equal to e raised to minus alpha x minus beta tau, max of e minus ex comma 0, which I'm going to be calling as gx of t tau. Okay, because this particular function that is there, when it is expressed in terms of s is basically just the value of the when you basically write everything out. Okay, if g is equal to this, okay, and this thing is the payoff, okay, this thing is the value of u when the put is getting expressed, then what you have is the value of the put itself when the put gets expressed is equal to max of e minus s. Okay, so just my statement once again, when g has this function, okay, when the put is getting expressed, in that particular case, u that is there will be equal to g of x of t, x of tau. Okay, and that basically is the same thing as the put itself equal to max of e minus s at any value of t, not just tau, or at the value of t, that is when the put is getting expressed. Okay, since we have that, okay, if we now basically try to put in things which were there in the previous examples, okay, what we in the question of the American put that I had discussed in the previous lecture, what we had is that we had a particular value of s of f, below which sorry, we had a particular value of s of f, okay, and if the value of the, in case s was below sf, what we had is that the put was getting expressed. Okay, that is how the value of sf was decided. Now in case I'm just having another random condition, if ss is smaller than s, then what it would imply if x, because s is equal to e raised to x, what would it imply is there is a corresponding xf smaller than s, smaller than x. Okay, so I have that condition with me. Okay, so then as far as my American put went, I had this condition in case x is smaller than xf and x goes from minus infinity to xf. Remember, s was going from 0 to infinity, so x that is there will basically go from minus infinity to infinity. If s is going from 0 to infinity, x that is there will go from minus infinity to infinity. Okay, now when it is from minus infinity to xf, the value of x, the put is getting expressed. Because the put is getting expressed, as I told you guys before, u has the value ux of tau is equal to gx of tau. Okay, the other thing is, if you work it out, when what we had said in the question of American options was, whenever the put is getting expressed, what we have is this term that is there is smaller than 0. Now we just substitute for the value of the put as this term here, and when you write down everything, what you will have is that the inequality becomes this kind of an inequality in the diffusion equation when the put is getting expressed. What we had said, when the put was not getting expressed, the Black-Scholes, it is just normal European call hedging. So because of that, what we are having is the diffusion equation is going to hold. But we also had an inequality that the value of the put that was there was greater than the payoff. So that's why ux of tau should be greater than gx of tau in case x is greater than xf, implying the put is not getting expressed. Okay, you see, we can in essence, in some sense we could basically get rid of this xf also, okay, by a clever way. What we see is, instead of solving these two equations, that is for this bound I'm solving this equation, for this bound I'm solving these equations. In case of solving these two equations, these round of equations, u minus g times this term is equal to 0, and either u is always greater than g or this is greater than 0 simultaneously, then what I would have is that I'm basically ending up solving this expression itself without the knowledge of xf. You see, how is that the case? When u is equal to g, as long as, first of all, assume this, okay, as long as u is equal to g and this is are not simultaneously satisfied. Let us say that first of all they are not simultaneously satisfied. Okay, if they are not simultaneously satisfied, if u is equal to g, okay, that means this is not equal to 0, this is not equal to 0, this has to be equal to this expression. So what we have is u is equal to g, this is greater than 0. Similarly, if this is greater than if this is equal to 0, that means u is greater than g or equal to g. So what we have is, similarly we are looking at this expression, we will only either have in one interval this is greater than this and this is equal to this, or we will have in this interval this is equal to this or this is greater than this. Okay, so if we just forget the intervals per se, these are the only constraints we will be having, that either this is greater than this is equal to this, or this is equal to this is greater than this. We could get these two constraints altogether by this expression. Okay, that is, these are always obeyed, that these two are always greater than this thing is greater than 0 and this is greater than g, u is greater than g, and this is equal to 0. Okay, and in case these are simultaneously, both of these terms are not simultaneously equal to 0, the only possibility we have is that either this is equal to 0, u is equal to g, or this is greater than 0 corresponding to this expression, or this is equal to 0, this diffusion term, this is equal to 0, and u is greater than equal to g, which is equal to this expression. Okay, and we just say that okay. Now the thing is, in case we are having certain periods, okay, where u is equal to g as well as the diffusion equation is getting satisfied, okay, there is also a possibility like that, okay, that both of these terms are basically equal to 0 at the same time, and then there is no parallel of that over here. The idea is that in case you're like solving, you know, say if you're trying to solve these conditions numerically, whatever we got over here numerically with this initial condition, okay, then you will see that, you know, these two will not be equal to 0 at the same time. Okay, you could actually make a proof and show that these two will not be simultaneously equal to 0 at the same time if we start with the proper initial condition. Okay, if we start with the initial condition like this, then these two will not be equal to 0 at the same time. Okay, so now when we talk about numerically solving this, okay, this is how, or you know, this is how we will go about this is how we will be going about solving this equations numerically. Okay, whenever we are talking about solving things numerically, we basically have to, these are like differential equations that we will be solving. Because we are solving differential equations, numerical solving of that implies we break things into a grid. So we break the x axis into a lattice x. So there is the problem that we have is in x and tau. Okay, so what we do is we break up x and tau, okay, the x and tau system, okay, we break it up into a lattice. Okay, lattice such that this difference that is there, the distance between the lattice point in the x direction is delta x, two lattice points. In the y direction, in the tau direction, it is basically delta tau. Okay, and then afterwards what we do is we consider the value of u's at each and every lattice point. So what we have is that u x of t, okay, could be written as u of m del x and del tau, okay, which is equal to u of m comma n. Okay, this is how we could represent u on the lattice. Okay, so then the diffusion equation that we have could basically be written down like this. Okay, we are partial derivative with respect to the time direction now becomes differences in the n between two lattice points in the n direction. Okay, so there will be an n plus 1 and n where m is the same divided by delta. Okay, and then as far as the second derivative goes, when we write the second derivative, what we'll have to consider is m plus 1, keep the n the same, the time value that is there is the same. And then when you are writing down the second derivative, if you guys you know, you guys can just check this. I mean, you know, just see this is how many, obviously you'll be writing a second derivative. The way the second derivative is written is you know, say if I'm like evaluating the second derivative of this point, I'll be considering this point minus twice this point. So it is just um plus 1 um minus 1 minus 2 um divided by del x squared. That thing will be second derivative with respect to x. This thing is of the order, is at least good up to an order delta t when delta t is small, and this is also of the order delta x squared when delta x squared is small. Okay, so what we can do is we can just multiply things. Okay, and we can assume that, you know, there are certain limits where this thing is true, where this thing is okay. This thing is only okay under certain limits when this thing is smaller than 1/2. The particular ratio delta tau divided by delta x squared, that thing is smaller than 1/2. Okay, that is when this particular system that is there is going to give you you know, it's going to give you the right solution. Okay, I'm not going to go much into detail why that is the case right now, but just note that as long as you're choosing delta tau and delta x squared in such a way that delta tau divided by delta x squared is smaller than 1/2, the solutions that you get using this particular method of doing the calculations are going to converge. Okay, and this particular method is basically called, so you can, is called the explicit finite difference. So here what we have, basically we are having the solution at all values of m, that's at all values of x at a time in the future, determined by everything that is there at one time step behind. So this thing is n, and there is information that is needed from points m plus 1 and m minus 1. So actually the whole data points that are coming in over here is, if I want to evaluate this data point, I should have information of this data point, this data point, and this data point. Okay, now in case I'm basically saying that this thing is the initial condition, tau is equal to 0, so n is equal to 0. So this values of u, as I've said, I have to be given an initial condition. The initial condition was given to me over here, ux of 0 is equal to g of x. I start off with this initial condition over here, ux of 0 is equal to g of x. So the values of u that are there are given to me over here. Okay, and in case I had boundary condition, so this is the boundary. Okay, one boundary of x that is there, another boundary of x that is there. Okay, so like in the European option that is there, we had this, we had to have a boundary condition s is equal to 0 and s is equal to infinity, right? And then yeah, so and we had considered other examples also where the boundaries were where you basically had a finite boundary. Okay, so the thing is, if this thing is one boundary, this is another boundary, then since what we have is that in case I'm given the information at these 3 points, I can evaluate the information here because I'm given all the information that is there over here on this line n is equal to 0. I can, and I'm given the information everywhere over here on these points, m is equal to m minus and n is equal to m plus. Using this kind of this kind of a shape, I can evaluate the values here. Then once I have the values here, okay, so in principle I could be able to evaluate all, using this kind of a shape I could evaluate the value here. Okay, so because of that I will be able to evaluate, at least in the next time step, I'll be able to evaluate all the values from here till here. Okay, but then anyway this thing has already been, once I've evaluated the value over here, okay, what I've done is I've evaluated all the values over here. Okay, but the value of the boundary is anyway given to me, so in principle I have evaluated everything at n is equal to n and n is equal to 1. Okay, because I have the values at the boundary and the differential equations are giving me the values away from the boundary. I can similarly progress and evaluate everything throughout. Okay, so that is how I would be solving the diffusion equation as long as this thing is smaller than 1/2. Okay, where the solution is going to converge as long as I've been given the initial condition as well as the boundary condition. Okay, in the case of American options, we'll have to do something different. In the case of American options, what we do is at one particular time step use the information that is there, but instead of setting it up equal to the u at the next time step, set it up to y. Okay, and then choose the value of u at that next time step as the maximum value between y, okay, and the value of g, okay, at m and n plus 1. Okay, g is basically just this function that was given to you, that are evaluated, okay, which corresponds to the payoff. Okay, in case the put gets expressed, use this function. This is evaluated because this is already given, the whole value of this function on the lattice. Okay, so then what we have is that u m of n plus 1 is the maximum value of y. That is how you are going to choose the value of u. Okay, and it is the maximum between the value of the y that was evaluated here and the value of the g that is there at that particular lattice point. Okay, and then the same claim is that this thing will solve this particular expression. The solution of this will give that either it will, as far as this expression goes, this thing is just equivalent to u greater than g when this is equal to this, or u is equal to g when this is equal to this. To see that, assume first of all, this max, because this thing is a max function, this is the only thing which can give two different values. It can either give y or it can give g. Assume that y is greater than g. If that is the case, then what you have is u is equal to y. Okay, so what you have, y is greater than g, u is equal to y. Okay, u at that particular point is equal to y. That means as far as this y value goes, just plug in the value of u. Once you plug in the value of u at m and n plus 1, you're just getting back the diffusion equation. So you're getting the diffusion equation, but you also are getting this equation, y, because y is equal to u, that means u is also greater than g. So u is greater than g, and you're also getting the diffusion equation. Okay, or if you started off with the second case, if y was smaller than g, then this particular thing will tell you u is equal to g. Okay, So u is equal to g, but the value of u that is there, because it is equal to g, it is also greater than y. So u is also greater than y. Okay, so this left hand side that is there, u of mn plus 1 is greater than y, so u of mn plus 1 is also greater than this term. That would imply that that will basically imply that du by dt is greater than this term. So when u is equal to g, you're having this, and u is greater than g, you're having this. Okay, so what you have is that when you are solving this expression, okay, with the initial conditions and the boundary conditions, what you have is that you're getting something which is an expression for this. Okay, yeah. So so this is what this is basically how you will be solving the American options, okay, using this numerical method. Okay, the thing is, generally the main thing is, as far as finite difference goes, right, I have basically utilized explicit finite difference over here. This thing was the most simplest way of like solving the diffusion equation. Generally, these are not efficient methods. There are other methods such as Crank-Nicolson, implicit finite difference, etc., which become more accurate and basically become more efficient in solving. And then there is others. You can just read about them in this particular book by Wilmont, Mathematics of Financial Derivatives, where he goes into this whole thing in another chapter, and I'm not going to go over this, but this thing was just an explanation of how you could solve the American options using the Black-Scholes framework, okay, and numerically how you basically realize this solutions of the American options in the case of American puts.